You should know that by being silenced, intimidated, you are emboldening Hamas and terror organizations because they think they get away with it. It's making the problem worse. My name is Rawan Osman, and this is my story. I was born in Syria but raised in Lebanon. My father is Sunni from Damascus. My mom is Shia from the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon. This is why religion was irrelevant in my upbringing. At school, we were taught that Israelis are invaders, that they occupied Lebanese territory. And the only ones who dared defy them was the terrorist organization Hezbollah. Hezbollah were a political party. They had an armed wing, just like Hamas has an armed wing. And we perceived them as heroes because they had a righteous cause. They wanted to liberate southern Lebanon. When I was a child, we could sometimes, when we played with the antenna, receive a signal from an Israeli TV. We couldn't care less if it was biblical cartoon, if it was Hebrew. But if a grown-up walked into the room, they would freak out. So we associated Hebrew with the language of the enemy. We associated Hebrew with taboo. Politicians, famous journalists, news anchors, wise people, your parents, your teachers, everybody's telling you the Israelis, the Jews, the Zionists are our enemies. We had no interactions with Jews, none whatsoever. The first 18 years of my life I spent in Lebanon, but eventually I landed in France. So I landed in Strasbourg, and on the first day, I went across the street to a small grocery store. They were speaking a language I knew. It was Hebrew. When I turned and saw religious men with sideburns, dressed in white and black, big beards, I panicked. I dropped my stuff, crossed the street, ran up to the third floor, locked my bedroom door. I was sharing the same space with the enemy for the first time ever, and it was overwhelming. It was my first day in France, and I was going to spend at least a year there. And I realized nothing instigated a panic attack except what was inside my brain. Because in the Arab world, we have anti-normalization laws and policies, and it forbids the citizens of these countries from interacting with Israelis. And if you are found guilty of collaborating with a Zionist or an Israeli, the consequences can be severe. But I realized that I'm not collaborating with Israel if I say hello to a Jew. And I was thinking they didn't even look at you. But also I left my stuff in the store and I had to go back and collect it. So I decided to compose myself to return. I continued shopping, and the owner was Jewish. And he asked me when I came to pay where I came from. And I told him, Lebanon, Syria. And he understood when I said it was my first day that I panicked because I understood they were Jews. And he was pleasant and very nice and helped me with my bags. And I continued shopping there, and I realized years later that this man, although he didn't mean to, he converted me from an enemy to an ally through kindness. Every time I went there, I learned something new. I was thinking that they treated one another very nicely, that the children were well behaved, that they always took care of the elderly. And I used to think, they don't seem so bad. Maybe the ones living in France were friendly and the monsters lived in Israel. I wanted to know, why is the Jew my enemy? Why Israel became a country? What was their incentive to return to this underdeveloped corner of the world? And the more I learned, the more I became angry. Angry because tens of thousands of Arabs have lost their lives for no reason. These were all senseless wars. If only the Arabs accepted to share the land with the Jews, this could have been avoided. When I returned to the Middle East, I tried to speak to Arabs, and I thought it's easy to tell them we are brainwashed to open their eyes. And people weren't interested. They didn't want to listen, including my family members. It became dangerous for me because I was speaking out. So I decided to move back to Europe, and I decided to go back to university to study Islam from a neutral European perspective. Studying Islamic studies helped me understand why is this political conflict becoming an eternal religious one. But I also wanted to understand what's the problem with the Jews. So I went to study Jewish studies, and I took a very basic class with a Swedish rabbi. I realized the world made sense to me. The universal morality stemming from the Ten Commandments, from that event at Mount Sinai, when the Jewish people as a nation received this light and accepted the mission to be a light unto nations, I realized, that's it. I belong with this group of people. It doesn't mean that only Judaism makes sense. It means it made sense to me. I decided to convert to Judaism around a year before October 7th. October 7th, definitely not the first massacre or atrocity we witnessed in the Middle East. What was different about October 7th was how Hamas went about conducting their evil attack against Israel. It was so brutal, and it was recorded, and it was broadcasted for the world to see. If they could do this to Israelis and broadcast it, including beheading people, knowing that Israel's strongest ally is the US, what would they do to the Gazans who opposed them? After October 7th, too many red lines were crossed that I realized now is the time to pick a side. I shared on social media that I am converting. I lost a lot of friends and family. Some came around, many didn't, but I made many friends along the way, and in a sense, a new family. I don't regret anything I've done. I'm happy, and I feel with all my heart that what I'm doing is the right thing. Since I decided to convert, I wanted to visit Israel, but I was hesitant because once I visit Israel, I can never go back to Lebanon and Syria. January 1st, 2024, I went to Israel for the first time. Now, after meeting thousands of Israelis, and I'm not exaggerating, I understood that 99% want peace with the neighboring countries. So many have roots there. So many have their ancestors' graves in the region. They just want peace. It took me a long time to dismantle this very complex narrative of lies that I grew up with. Any sane person should condemn Hamas and side with the Israelis. I would expect every government, even in Syria, in Lebanon, even Hamas, if they were decent people, they're supposed to protect their families, their children, their mothers, not sacrifice them. Why is the rest of the world confused? Due to intensive brainwashing. But in the West, it's because they don't know much about our history. They don't know what happens in Gaza, in the West Bank, how these groups treat their own people. The West doesn't understand the danger that radical Islam poses to Western civilization. And it's coming, and you're embracing it. You should know that by being silenced, intimidated, you are emboldening Hamas and terror organizations because they think they get away with it. Know that your silence, that your passivity, it's making the problem worse. We need you to stand up, to speak up, to defend Western civilization. Stop apologizing. Sometimes we have to fight back for the sake of our children. This camp that endorses political Islam is growing every day. It is time for moral clarity, and light, as it always does, will prevail. Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.